Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to BT Talks. Today we have a special guest. He's a good friend of mine and he's a fantastic architect, Andre KIKOSKI. He's going to join us in a minute or so. Hopefully he'll be able to join. I think he's pretty new to the Instagram lives, but today we're going to have a conversation around architecture, interior design, and becoming an architect, all the different projects he's worked on all over the world. He started working on some fantastic projects in New York that you may know, and then a little across the US. But yeah, hold on with me for a minute and Andre will join. Let me see if I can maybe add him. There we go.
Hey there.
There we go. You see, that was easy.
Very easy. Yes, thank you.
Very easy. Oh, I see a
Easy.
few people joining in. Thanks to everybody who is joining. It seems like the weather is much nicer where you are than in Miami.
I'm doing my best to
Where are you right
listen.
now? Are you are
Yes.
you are you in the city or in the Hamptons?
I'm in Wainscott in the Hamptons, right in between Bridgehampton and East Hampton.
That's a very,
So
very nice region. Well, anyways,
it's
thank you.
it's just
Yeah,
nice to be out of the town for a little bit, you know?
it's always good. You need a mix of being in the city and being in the outdoors in nature. Very good for
Absolutely.
the mind and the soul. Um,
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you
but
more.
thank you so much for taking some time to join my BT Talks, which I've been doing for quite a while, and I try to be consistent and have some of the most interesting people in the world of architecture, design, real estate, around things we do. This is the 60th episode, which is really cool. And
It is
we've
really
known,
cool. Congratulations.
thank you. And we've known each other for quite a while. When I was in New York, we met at different conferences, and I always admired all the different projects you worked on. But for the people that don't know who you are, just introduce yourself, who you are, and how you got into the world of architecture, which is a
Sure, Mark.
fascinating world, but it's also very difficult and challenging to break in, if I can say.
Well, I appreciate most of all being here because the real advantage of any career, any profession, anything that you do is about the company that you keep. I
100%.
believe very much in that expression that you are the sum total of the five people you spend the most time with. So I'm
I do agree.
honored and privileged to spend time with you today and everyone who's
Thank you,
taking
Andre.
the time out of their busy day to join us as well. My name is Andre KIKOSKI. My firm is Andre KIKOSKI Architect. We are a Manhattan-based architecture and design firm. And I suppose, put simply, we don't really ascribe to any particular notion of what it is that is a conventional practice. Our work spans the spectrum from ground up residential buildings. We have 14 houses in the Hamptons, um, product design, interior design. I've always admired the European sensibility where people like Norman Foster, Richard
Yeah,
Rogers, Chitterino, but also if you look back, like my heroes from America, Charles and Ray Eames, Frank Lloyd Wright, the idea is that architecture and design is a limitless kind of discipline with the sole purpose to create a sense of joy in those who use it and experience it. So we've had this very straightforward approach that it's about making joy, about making beauty, and to always try to temper that with an understanding of functionality. Like things aren't beautiful if they don't work well,
it's an
right?
experience, I think. I mean, I've always been fascinated by architecture, and I think, when I was a kid, I always was fascinated by architecture, and if I was going to do anything else, would be actually architect. But I think, I've done a variety of things, and I got into real estate because it fitted well with my personality, and I'm a people person, and I love all things about architecture, interior design, but I was always fascinated by architects and interior designers and all these projects. When you look at a building or a house and you think of how can this design be done, or this building be built, or it's fascinating. And if you look at all the projects, whether it's in New York City or in Dubai or in Miami, you're like, this is, I mean, man-made. It's fascinating.
It is fascinating, and it's always been fascinating. I was very lucky as a child. I grew up in the most historic part of New England, with dating back to the 1600s. And then in the summers, we'd go visit my mother's family who were living in the Middle East, and we'd walk the Roman ruins in Lebanon or the old citadel in Aleppo. And so this sense of like structures that like a young child doesn't typically see growing up in New England. And I've always been amazed by how these places make you feel, trying to imagine what it was
True.
like
It's a feeling.
leading an attack on a medieval castle, or being in a mosque in the middle of a busy active city, and then suddenly your feet are sinking into like a 12-inch pile of hand knotted silk carpets, and it's cool and calm. So I think I realized really early on that architecture and design has this incredible power to impact your emotion and to give you a feeling almost like music if it's done right. So it is,
Exactly.
as you say, the sense of awe and things that inspire wonder, but it's also a really simple inner sense of joy from
For sure.
beauty.
And, and it could be, modern or ancient. I mean, even, I grew up in Paris, and,
Hmm.
there's fascinating architecture. And I know that, wherever you go, whether it's a residential building or a museum, or, you go to the Louvre or any place, if you're sensible, there's a feeling you get by walking into those buildings and looking
Hmm.
around you. So,
Hmm.
you know,
Agreed, and it's a feeling that comes from things being considered and well thought through. It's a feeling that comes from understanding craftsmanship. I mean, Paris is one
exactly.
of my favorite cities for the simple fact that if I said to you, "Hey, we're going to build an entire city out of one material. Every structure will be 6 stories tall, and they all have to have the same window," you would say, "Oh my God, how boring!" And then you walk around looking at the
And you,
beautiful
exactly.
limestone facades of Paris, and you realize that that there's just an endless array of what can be done
Yeah.
with imagination and craftsmanship as well. And
It's
these are things,
craftsmanship is everything. Yeah.
yeah, these are things that are very important to us, that have really moved our practice in very profound ways. Understanding as we are creating a design, as we're creating a space, how it will be fabricated and how it will be understood by the people who use it. It was so fun, for instance, at the Right, the restaurant we did over a decade ago in the Guggenheim Museum,
Yeah.
to say, okay, this is an experience to this is a museum experience about having art around you, and our idea was to really have the art envelop you and wrap you. And as we started to look into Frank Lloyd Wright's architecture and the plasticity and the malleability that he created with his famous rotunda, and to try to translate that into new materials and new techniques that were very innovative when we designed the restaurant. Vinyl
Yeah.
membranes, cantilevered columns. I mean, it's
How
really
long did it
cool.
take? How long did it take for you guys to complete that project at the Guggenheim?
Uh, every that took about a year, um, which is not insignificant. I mean, we really wanted to get everything right. I think the most important quality that anyone brings to design, whether it's architecture, interior design, graphic design, is very much this idea of being deliberate and being measured and considered. Often, I believe the first idea can be the best one, but it's also important to like identify alternates, and did we do this right? And what if we massage this ever so slightly? If we move the decimal just one digit, not 10.
Yeah,
And that's the fun of it as well. There's this like
for sure.
ability to do kind of endless refinement as well
Yeah.
on the same idea.
So some projects, residential projects you worked on in New York are projects like 75 Kenmar, where you guys also partnered with Kravitz Design, which is Lenny
Hmm.
Kravitz design company. We also worked
Hmm.
on One Hudson Yard, on a few like really, I mean, very nice projects, boutique
Thank
projects and
you.
bigger projects.
Hmm.
And some of actually my favorites and great neighborhoods. I mean, there's a feeling, like we were talking about feelings. You go to
Yeah.
75 Kenmar, you go in Nolita, there's a whole environment that's created around it. Tell us a little bit about how you, let's take an example, 75 Kenmar. How was the
Hmm.
whole process of working on it, from start to finish?
We approached that project the way we approached every project. And this is something that we've been very deliberate about from day one of the firm. And that is lessons that I learned when I was working with IMP right after grad school. It was really the master of iconic buildings and cities. And it's really to start the exercise. What do we want to do at 75 Kenmare by walking around the neighborhood, right? We are looking for the DNA of Nolita. We are looking for the visual compendium of details and materials and like what is it that makes this place? If you walk through, like we said, Paris's limestone, what is it about 75 Kenmare? What is it about the Nolita neighborhood that we can catalog, that we can identify? So we start like detectives, like walking around the neighborhood, taking pictures of things that catch our eye, going through different streets,
Yeah.
doing historical research, really trying to dial into the vibe of the neighborhood and the clues that the neighborhood is giving us. And then we find things that are kind of interesting. So we do our research, then we do some editing, and then we start intensifying, right? I love the comparison between architecture and food because I think it's a really, really good one.
Yeah.
Many years ago, when Mario Batali just opened his first restaurant, his second restaurant, Babbo, I remember the waiter said, "We have this soup that's made from tomatoes that we simmer on low heat for a week." And so what you get is this like intense, intense,
And
intense one sip,
yeah.
and it's like the equivalent of like, I don't know, 50 tomatoes, right? So we're trying to do the same thing with architecture. So we walked all over the neighborhood, we cataloged, we looked at details of masonry, we looked at buildings, we looked at windows, we looked at scale, color, texture, and it was really about like finding these irrefutable essences of the DNA of the neighborhood and putting it all together into an architectural strategy that we could use to design. This was our touchstone. How should we proportion this? What does the material want to be? And we noticed very much the neighborhood has this incredible masonry quality to it. It's actually a district, a special district within the city that it's called, the Nolita Little Italy district
Yeah. That's a very good
because
point.
there's so much good
Understanding,
masonry there,
yeah, understanding the history of the
right?
neighborhood, the people of the neighborhood, the materials used in every location, all these different things. And I think also
Yeah,
then you can bring in a few outside elements, but keeping the DNA of
yeah.
the neighborhood.
So we obviously it would have been like totally wrong to put a glass building in there, and we were also fortunate because at one end, 2 blocks to our west, we had the storefront for art and architecture by Vito Acconci, which
Yeah.
is an incredible building facade. And then, 2 blocks to our east, we had Ted Ondo's first building in the
Yeah.
U.S. in New York City, and so even there we had not only historical references but contemporary references of what a masonry building could be. And I became really interested in this idea of the texture of the city, the texture of the street, the texture of masonry detailing,
Yeah. Hmm.
and and the way that there's a kind of rustication that becomes key to traditional brick architecture. And how could we do something wildly inventive with it and really cool? So we just thought instead of a simple rhythm of A and B, let's have a more contemporary rhythm, almost like an atonal, like John Cage, like kind of rhythm. And let's take this patterning that goes always horizontally and let's turn it vertically. So the result was a skin of concrete with very different levels of articulation between the width of the channels and the depth of the channels. So it really has a kind of very active presence, animated by daylight throughout the course of the day and the evening. And we thought, we would really be happy and we would really consider ourselves to be very successful if people would stop what they're doing as busy New Yorkers and walk down the street and just stop and look at this building for just a moment. And
Do you
I
have,
can,
yeah, do you
sorry.
have this, do you have, what is, because you work on residential, on
Mm-hmm.
commercial, and also hospitality. Is
Mm-hmm.
the approach the same on designing a building or residence or office, or how is the approach on designing it?
Well, we did the same thing at 2 Westwater,
Yeah.
right in Sag Harbor, working with Jay Bialski, the developer. He challenged us to come up with an idea that would capture the essence of Sag Harbor and at the same time completely transform it.
Is that
We have the
project
same.
completed? Is that project
Uh,
completed? No,
it
no.
it Two of the three structures are weather tight and enclosed, and the third, they're being built sequentially. The third residence is the steel frame is up, and I think that will be completed, within 6 to 9 months. But it was the same process. It was looking at the town, the brick patterns, the window patterns, the use of materials, and taking all these ideas and editing them and putting together something that we thought that was really unique, really powerful, and really streamlined without superfluous details, without excess. So there's a kind of real purity to what we understand as the nature of this place.
Hmm.
And then we also layered onto it, how do people want to live today? How can it be clean and crisp and contemporary? So you have an influence of context on the outside of the building, and then the interiors are a pure celebration of place because you're 30 feet on the air with a deck overlooking the water. In the living room, it's as if you're on a boat with, you know, the most beautiful place in the world in front of you. And yet, so you have this intense experience of the physicality of the site, and then you're just steps from the main street. I
It's all
mean,
about
what's
emotions. It's yeah.
it's all about emotions. It's all about saying that architecture is about building, and if we can build spaces and buildings and environments that make people feel excited, that's what we want, right? If elevate. It's an emotional luxury.
Yeah, how do you see the future of architecture and buildings and residential buildings in major cities like New York and Miami or LA? They're starting to build some big residential buildings and across the world.
I think we've seen a couple interesting trends. I think that pre-COVID, it was all about like how can you amenitize a building? How can the building become its own lifestyle destination?
Yeah,
And we see this not only with large-scale residential development, but we see this with like private houses. The idea that even a residence in Florida becomes its own mini resort, right?
it is.
So
Yeah.
so this we like very much, and I think under COVID, we've realized that we need a deeper level of thinking this through. That we need to account for the fact that we want to work from home, that we want to have people around us more. We're going to be entertaining more from home. So again, it's kind of intensifying like the DNA of home, right? Gathering with friends and family, being
Exactly.
productive, right?
And
I mean,
the wellness element is also very important. I think there's a lot of people wherever you are in New York, Miami, anywhere. I see more and more buildings and residences, houses that have their spa, their gym. They have the air filters, the water filter. Like everything is guided
Abs-
towards well-being.
100%. Even the simple idea of fresh air and outdoor space,
Exactly.
terraces, French doors. I mean, I agree with you. I think it like the experience of COVID and the pandemic has brought us to understand how absolutely important it is for us to live in harmony with nature, in harmony with each other,
Of
and
course.
that our
Yeah.
home is not just where we sleep in between the office and going out, but it really is the center of our life, and it's the
It
center of
is
our family. And if we're clever about it and we're deliberate about it, we're also making this like a road print for the future we want to live,
for
right?
sure. Yeah, and I think look, it's changing over time for our homes. What are your thoughts on offices? Because I think that same thing. It's evolving there too. I
Hmm.
mean, we're going to split our time between home and the office. I think people
Hmm.
need interaction. People need to be
Yes.
around people.
Hmm.
COVID was a certain time, but now and there may be some other pandemics, but I think we'll always have the need to go to the office, have team meetings, have brainstorming sessions. So what do you think of the future of the office design?
About, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago when we started seeing the rise of online publishing, I remember sitting with a friend of mine who's an editor, and he said, this is what's going to happen. We're either going to have magazines that disappear, or we're going to have magazines that we can't wait till they arrive, and they'll be beautiful, and it'll be a celebration of reading. The paper will be luxurious, they'll be oversized, and sure enough, it's happened, right? We have big, beautiful glossies that are like a treat to read, but the more mundane things have gone away. So I think the idea of going back to the office means that the office has to be really special. I've been working from my home, from my yard in this beautiful place now for a year and a half. If I'm going to go back to the office, I don't just want a chair and a cubicle and even if there's like a good barista, it needs to it's about reimagining the space of work that is sort of in between like what we understood an old office to be and what your home is now,
Yeah,
right? There needs to
100%.
be more beauty, more relaxed space, lounge space, living room spaces. It's about a lifestyle. It's about how you can work. For me, it took me a good 6 months to the pandemic before I would allow myself to work from my couch. I was like,
Yeah,
no, work means sitting at a desk, sitting at a
exactly.
table. And then I realized, oh, you can work from a couch, you can work from a lounge chair, and then everything started happening, and it's so
Yeah,
beautiful.
I
So,
mean, look, yeah, luckily in any profession, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're in your career, I mean, we have access to the internet. I mean, now we can travel back again, but with the connection of the internet, with your iPhone, I mean, we're just in touch with everyone. We can pretty much work from anywhere. And I think the most important is also find a serene place where
mhm.
we can stay focused, not be distracted. Because obviously, I mean, you can work from home and be distracted. You can work at the office and be distracted, but you can also find your place of calm and stay
Mhm.
focused. So I think it's going to be interesting to see over the next few years how things are going to be in residential buildings and houses and also in offices and how people are going to live regardless of their career.
Mhm.
Um, because luckily,
Agree.
again, we're all connected, right? We have
We
access to the
we've
internet and now we can
Yeah,
travel again. But yeah,
we've loved the opportunity to work with a number of families over the course of COVID, like planning their dream homes, planning the apartment they've been waiting for that they'll all go to for the next 20, 30, 40 years. And it's super cool because we're creating a roadmap. We're writing the script in space for their future, and it's really quite fun. And I think companies now have the opportunity to do that as well as they think about their office space. Like,
yeah,
what is it that we want to communicate? What is it that's going to bind us together? What is it that is going to inspire us? So it's always an opportunity to look deeper into the why, and the who, and designing around that notion, right? I
yeah,
mean, we
100%.
have a
Yeah.
very people centric approach to architecture and a very emotional centric approach that it like we're not just designing pretty things. We're designing places that people live in that are like thoughtfully appointed for their work, for their socializing. It needs to have the performance of a supercar, in the sense that when you're reaching for a button to adjust something, it's right where you want it to be. So
I like the
ergonometrics,
approach you have on comparing it to a supercar. It's true. It's true.
it's your life, and we're all living so fast right now, right?
Exactly.
Like, right? So it's about ease, convenience, but like a kind of luxury and a kind of feeling of casual refinement.
Exactly.
all
How,
rolled
how
into
many
one.
how many projects are you working on currently across the world, I guess? Because so which cities across the world and how many projects are you working on?
So right now we have, I would say, I don't know, maybe 25 projects, ballpark, and they are between New York City, the Hamptons, Northern Florida, Southern Florida, and Los Angeles. Right before COVID started, we sort of pulled back from our international work purely by chance,
Yeah.
which was great. So it's been, New York, Florida, Los Angeles, which has been really great and really exciting.
Hmm.
And frankly, the same time zones, like procedurally much easier than trying to reach your contractor in China to talk about something. So it's been nice.
Very cool.
And yeah, we've been really enjoying it. It's been a wonderful experience to focus on design without all the running to meetings and without all the things that we have to do after work, the cocktail parties, the openings, right? And I
Exactly.
find that we've really, we've been so fortunate because like so many of our relationships, people we love and people we care about and people who are trusted collaborators, those relationships are stronger than ever before, right? And
It's
that's
true. I
really,
mean, there's so many
yeah.
relationships that became so stronger. I mean, it's been a very challenging year, I think, for most of us all over the
Hmm.
world. I mean, some it was easier than others, but in some way, I mean, we realized, how important certain things were, relationships,
Hmm.
living your best life every day, doing what you love,
Every day. Yes.
and just being grateful also every day. There's so many things happening all over the world, and I think, yeah, this whole year that passed by, I think it
Hmm.
changed the perspective of a lot of people.
I think it's a perspective change that we needed. I think it's an opportunity
It was well
to,
needed. It was well
yeah,
needed.
absolutely.
So I have
Absolutely.
two last questions. So
Sure.
for those who are exploring maybe the career of architect,
Hmm.
do you have any advice on getting into the world of architecture?
Do it.
Just do it, like anything,
Just
right?
do
It's
it.
like
I mean,
real
it's
estate
yeah,
or architect. Because I think
yeah.
people see architecture as like, wow, like I mean, it seems incredible, and to get into being one of the top architects. I mean, it's like every business, right? It takes a lot of time. You need to surround yourself with the right people. You need to be passionate. Um, you need to
Well,
yeah, you need to know
I
your
think
craft.
I think Henry Ford said, "If you think you can or you think you can't, you're right." Right? Or maybe it
I
was,
agree.
Roy Rogers or Rob Rogers or whatever. I mean, but the idea is that it's like if this is really, if there's something that you really feel deeply that you want to do, then you should do it,
I
right?
agree.
Um,
I
and
agree.
and not hold back and not look back. I went to the there's the Bruce Art Foundation in the East Village, and Marilyn Minter was critiquing students, and it's a completely free art school. And I love her work and always have. And it was just fascinating to see her talking to these kids. And she said to these kids, like, can you do anything else? Is there anything else you can do that would make you happy? Because if there's anything else you can do other than making art and it makes you happy, then do it,
Yeah,
right?
for
Because
sure.
this is a really hard profession. I think the opposite. I think if you are enjoying design, if you're enjoying, like, if you have this vision of yourself becoming a real estate broker or a
Yeah.
pilot or whatever, just do it, right? Why
That's
hold
how I
back?
went into it. Prior real
Right,
estate, I had several different, careers, great experiences, and then I was like, let's just do it, whatever it takes. And I'm
right,
in it. I'm in for the long run because I love it, and
right.
I feel this business is, it's not for everyone, like any profession, but
Hmm.
if you're passionate and you do what's right, you create some incredible opportunities. And if you're patient, obviously, it's not an
Hmm.
overnight. But as long as it makes you happy, I think
Yeah.
that comes to my last question: is what is your definition of happiness and success?
My definition of happiness and success is that you can live completely in the present,
Hmm.
in the moment, without a feeling of looking over your shoulder or worrying about what other people are doing. It's the ability to just at any given moment, this is what I choose to do. This is who I choose to do it with, and this is enriching me and inspiring me, and hopefully those around me. I think it's
Very
very.
well said. Yeah.
I think life. It's funny because under COVID, I found myself talking to someone, and I said, "Yeah, it's really funny because there's just more of a opportunity. Like it's like we become more deliberate and we're a little more tempered." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I think that's called wisdom." And when you're not running
Exactly.
around constantly 22 hours a day on overdrive, you have the opportunity to focus on these real
That
fundamental.
was that was what was, I guess, thought before. I mean, it was, I feel the world before was like
Hmm.
run, 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 hustle, 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 and like you don't see time go by and you forget about what's important. And I
Right.
think it's so important to wake up in the morning, be grateful, put your mind right, meditate if you
Mhm.
want, work out if you
Yep.
want, surround yourself with like-minded people. That's a big one, because if you're not
Yeah.
with the right people, you're not going to have a good day, or it's very
Hmm.
important. And constantly learn also about whatever you love. And I
Yeah.
think that's
Well,
yeah.
it's like I think that design. What I love about any kind of design is that there's a limitless possibility within the discipline, right? At the start of the project, any building, any space can be anything,
Yeah,
right? There's no limitation.
that's the beauty of it. Yeah.
And if you think also about designing your life, I mean, there's a great quote by F. Scott Fitzgerald: "If you don't like who you are, then change it." Right? So
Very
so
simple. Yeah.
so so it's like we're going to the ocean to fill with water, to fill a vessel with water, and there are people who go with like a thimble, right? And there are people who
Yeah,
go with like a super tanker, right? Right?
exactly.
I
Yeah.
mean, like it's about having an expansive vision. It's about having a sense of inspiration, and living the life that you want to live without reservation or without regret. I mean, what could be better than that, right?
Nothing better than that. And it's a perfect way to end this beautiful conversation. Andre, thank you so much. I really, really appreciated.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having
The
me.
conversation
Thank you
was
all for
great.
listening.
We had a lot of people on the live, and I'm sure they loved it. I know Sam, who's a good friend of mine, who always joins my VT talks, absolutely loved it. Um, Thank you so much again. I hope I will see you soon, whether it's in New York, the Hamptons, Miami. If you come down to Miami, we'll figure something out.
Definitely look
But
forward
I'd
to it.
love to definitely have a lunch or something with you, or see some beautiful buildings, or residences.
Or all of the above, right?
Or all of the above is even better. We'll figure that out. But
Right.
Andre, thank you so much. Have
Thank you.
a beautiful afternoon, and I'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Thanks for
Bye.
having me. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.